Hello everyone, today we're taking a look at the HummingBird RaceSpec V2. This is a little whoop from Newbie Drone, and if you don't know, I do have a bias here on this micro-centric channel for whoops. Even got one here on the Holy Catfish shirt. But this one had a little bit of a strange journey, lots of twists and turns, some curves, and maybe even a few dives off a cliff, so we better get into it.
At a glance, the RaceSpec looks the same. And in many regards it is, but most of the changes are on the board. There is a slightly different camera change as well, but it still has the same 0702 30,000 kV motors, as well as a 31mm tri-bladed AZ props, or AZI, as the BT20 battery connector, and it comes stock with a pretty serious camera angle. And now this camera is the V2 of the Newbie Drone BI camera. It's supposed to be an 800 TV line camera versus the 600 TV line camera. It's kind of hard to show the difference in the camera, but the lens looks to be about the same size, but you could tell the PCB on the V2, the 800 TV line BI, is smaller, so you would think that it would weigh less. The flight controller is where most of the changes have taken place. It now has an AT32 F435 processor on it with the ICM 42688 gyro. It also has an dual N-channel ESC that is rated for 18 amps, so that's pretty big, beefy ESC for an all-in-one board. And the VTX on this one goes from 25 milliwatts, which is all the previous iteration had, up to 100 milliwatts, and then the max is 400 milliwatts. Also, one other critical change is this one is now got an Express LRS receiver that is not SPI based, so you can update the Express LRS independently of Betaflight. It comes with 2 extra sets of props. It comes with an extra canopy that looks to be identical, as well as the prop remover, Newbie Drone support card, which also on the backside has an FPV frequency chart, a card on the cockroach frame with a QR code on the back, and 2 sheets of stickers. It also comes with this little dongle because you may have noticed no USB port on this anywhere. So this is our USB port, and I would encourage you, as well as I think Newbie Drone, get this into these little pins over here, which I probably won't be able to even do on camera very well, before you connect the USB. There, I finally got it. Oh, and I didn't show it, but this little adapter is USB-C based. It weighs 16.47 grams, just like version 1. Okay, we are going to start off with the inside flight. I'll mention it during the flights just so everyone knows, because I know that when it comes to watching YouTube videos, I think this channel, and my channel in particular, I think the average view time is like 6.5 minutes or something like that. Well, one, I had some DVR recording problems. That's not the fault of the quad. That happens from time to time. I've seen it a few times over the years, or I say a few times. I don't know, maybe it's only twice. But it really caught me out in this particular case because I had been flying this over the course of about 3 days, so I had somewhere between 30 and 50 flights on this before I sat down to dump my DVR footage onto my computer, and I found that I was missing most of the flights. There was a number of flights that were recorded, but they were corrupted, and I tried to recover them. I've been down that road before. Essentially what I think it was is my SD card had just kind of gotten worn out, and it wasn't always recording, even though my goggles was telling it was recording. So this isn't the flight I thought I would be showing, because essentially at that point I had to restart all my flying. And one of the things I started experiencing was an issue with video consistency. As you may have already noticed, we had some additional breakup, and it continued to build from here as I flew it more and more and more, to where I couldn't even go on the main floor of the house without losing video signal. And I would try different channels on the race band, I would try different power levels, and it deteriorated over time. Now, did I crash it? Yeah, I crashed it loads of times. So does that mean it's fragile? I don't know. It could have been bad luck. The camera could have hit a critical chip on the board that caused my issue, that kind of took time to really go from the current state. Well, not the current state, because obviously out of the box the video performed even better than this, but it took it from a fully functional new out of box state to a state that we're looking at here, and to a state that I'll show you a little bit but later on. Something to note that I don't want people to miss is this does not have motor connectors, so this is probably for the most hardcore of racers. You're looking for something that's super low weight and super high performance, 30,000 kV. This wouldn't be one you would fly outside unless your wind is really, really low, which I was lucky enough to get some of those days, but unfortunately, most of that flight footage is gone. So the flight did end. My battery voltage is coming back up almost to 3.6 and a flight time at 2:15. This is going to be the only short sample that I've really got of me flying normally, and it has a crash in it. But I was saying at the end of the inside flight, it wasn't unusual for me to get 230, even 240 on inside flights. So this is going to be where I do a chimney dive, and then when I go down, I don't get out of it in time, and I wang into some of that furniture. Everything's still fine. This is actually the second day I had it. I got a banged up prop, you know, that's why we get the waviness in the camera. It's, you know, shimmying, shaking. I'm going to do a touch more flying, but really this is the only outside sample that I was able to salvage that shows me flying how I normally do, because again, the video over time started to deteriorate on me, you know, through crashing and stuff. I presume it was through crashing because it went from a normally working state to a state that we'll get to here in a minute. And I ended with a little bit of a crash there too. So this is actually on the same day of the flight that I already showed you, but this is me just kind of cruising around, just kind of checking it out for flight time, which I can get over 3 minutes of flight on the batteries that I haven't shown you yet, but I will show you at the desk. I'll mention them here now. I used several different batteries from Weebleed FPV, boomsticks from Aerial Outlaws, and the Tiny Whoop 300s. I did not test the 270s. For our friends who live outside of the U.S., if you're wondering about Whoop batteries, because I know shipping outside of the U.S. from those U.S.-centric companies can be kind of expensive. Look for the Tattoo 300s with the BT20 BT20 connector on them. Those would be the ones that will be most accessible to the friends outside. You might have FPV shops in your area that have their own specialized brands. They're pretty much all the same battery. But as far as the quad flies normally, everything you would expect, I didn't think it flew any different really than the V1, but we have a little bit of a different camera, which I thought handled sun and light a little bit better than the original BI, which, boy, I think the BI's been around for years, so that's been kind of a staple from Newbie Drone. It's super light though, so flying it outside on windy days above, say, 7-8 miles an hour, depending upon how much wind the quad is actually facing, might be pushing it. This particular flight is about 4 miles an hour. A slight breeze, which I could feel on my skin, but I just cruised around, and this is one of the few flights that I could salvage off of my DVR. Unfortunately, like I said, I had that SD card, and I took that SD card and pitched it away. But I lost a lot of flights, unfortunately. But you know, that happens from time to time. I'm not a professional at this. I'm just just like any of you, I'm just a hobbyist, and I don't take this seriously. It doesn't pay my bills. Well, I take it seriously. I'm just a hobbyist. I take as serious as I take it. I'm still just a hobbyist. This isn't what I do for a day job. I still go to work, 5 days a week or whatever work requires of me. But this was a flight that I thought I could show you to kind of show you how it flies in very calm winds, just kind of cruising around. Unfortunately, none of my regular sort of more aggressive sort of freestyle is available to me for the outside flights. So we could tell that the video is operating as you might expect, and you can see I'm running RaceSpec 8 at the max output, which is 400 milliwatts. So again, I'm on RaceSpec 8 again on this little sample here, and I'm at max, but I did try RaceSpec 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and I tried power levels of 125 milliwatts to see if it got any better. But as you can see, my video, as I get not very far away, it's tough. It's not usable, and there were many cases where, you know, I crashed because I couldn't see anything, so I had to just disarm and go down in the garage. But I wanted to give you a little sample of what I ended up running into along my journey, because maybe it means something about the board. I hope my counterparts out there flew it a lot so they can test these sorts of things as well. And you can see here, I'm going in and I'm changing things a little bit to try to see if, you know, is it any better if I do it on 100 milliwatts now instead of, you know, max, because, you know, change something, try to do something different. And, you know, I can't hardly see, and then I end up going down. This is actually before I went outside on that final flight. I thought, get out away from my Wi-Fi in the house a little bit to see if that helps by chance. Change of environment a little bit. But, you know, my environment's been pretty consistent for 9 years here. So obviously this is, you know, not as bad as what I showed you outside, but it's it's not flyable in my opinion. It's certainly not operating normally. So, in my journey along the way with this, I did find that through my flights that at some point either the VTX overheated, which it shouldn't because it's got thermal protection built into it, but I found over time that my video signal would degrade, and it's pretty much at a point now where it doesn't really, you can't do much with it other than to stand 15 or 20 feet away and fly it really, really close in. And even then, the video is a little bit rough. But I wanted to show you the inside sample as well. Okay, so if we look at both boards, this is the V2 that I've got over here in my right hand, and we've got the V1. I don't know how well you're going to be able to see all this stuff. But the board and design layout has actually obviously been changed because, we're going from a 12 amp to an 18 amp and a dual channel. And then we've also got the non-SPI ELRS on there. The little red chip up here, I believe that is our Express LRS antenna. And without my magnifiers, I thought I saw when I had my magnifiers out, the Wi-Fi antenna. Was it on the bottom? Oh, I can't remember now. But I use Wi-Fi, and I just put in a binding phrase. I use that way all the time. So it was really nice to have that back on this so I could just add my binding phrase and away we go. I am concerned before too many people pop off the video about this adapter. I would presume that Newbie Drone is going to sell this independently because, like with all adapters, one of my concerns is losing stuff or someone else in your household picking something up and then putting it somewhere and you have no idea, how do you describe this to someone in your household, that put it in with the buttons or something like that, that you're looking for a USB dongle. If they pick it up this way, they might not think it's USB. So, hopefully they sell this independently or by itself on their store. I get what they're trying to do. They're trying to, decrease the weight or keep the weight down. I have a feeling this V2 camera isn't actually any less than the larger PCB 600 TV line BI camera, because I thought this would be nearly a gram less with, the no USB port on this, because this one, had a USB port right there on the bottom, but, maybe it's because of the components and everything. So we just have the one antenna here for the VTX, and then, of course, I do believe this is our Express LRS. We still have the same connector for the camera, which is a little bit of a smaller connector. And putting this in, I can do it a lot better if I put my magnifiers on. My eyes aren't quite what they used to be, but I did get it. There we go. So I was able to do it at least one time with you looking here on the camera. So plug it in first, as far as plugging in the adapter to the all-in-one flight controller first, and then plug in your USB. Don't plug in your USB and then be shifting this thing around. You've got lots of metal contacts, and if you get ground and power from this adapter, those pins, and you touch the same, that could be bad. I said it already, but this is a pretty extreme angle, which I think again puts it more towards the most hardcore of whoopers out there. Of course, you could get a different print or remix this print if it's available, or design your own to bring the camera angle down, because the quad does fly nicely. The more weight we get down on our quads as far as whoops go, it does help performance and overall flight characteristics. I did dives from the chimney, which you kind of got to see one of those. I didn't experience into what we call the yaw washout, where it noses up on the dive portion and kind of swirls around. We are running a props out configuration on this particular one. Newbie Drone motors here, they're using, if you can tell there, you could probably barely see these little enamel wires instead of our traditional 3 wires that come out separately of the motors. That's one of the weight-saving mechanisms they use. But again, it kind of pushes towards the hardcore of FPV whoopers, because those solder pads are so tiny. Wiring or resoldering those wires on there, that's a pretty precision task. Also, I've got a picture. I broke this off on my inside flights at some point in time, and thankfully it didn't snap off, and I lost it in the house. It was just hanging on, as you can see there. So I used some glue, and I re-secured it down to the back so I could continue to fly it more, and that's been holding up just fine. I put glue on the bottom side as I held it together, and then after that cured, then I added some glue on the back side and then a little bit more on the front side. I'm not sure why they didn't use their little nubbin techniques that they do on their other frames. Maybe, again, that was a weight thing. When what I'm describing as a nubbin is just kind of like a little bump rather than this wedge. This wedge, in my opinion, I think gives the battery, the sticker of the battery, a potential point to grab on as it gets shifted around in our crashes, because this battery tray is not very strong. So this is going to take, when we hit our battery on the front or the back side, those 2 points are going to take a lot of the impact. So, I didn't break it on this one, and I've been flying this. If you don't know, I fly a Whoop, usually 1 or 2 battery packs, pretty much every night before I go to bed. Some people play solitaire or have a drink or something like that. I fly a Whoop, just casually kind of cruise around here in the basement. 1 or 2 packs before I go to bed, pretty much every night. And this has been one I've been flying regularly since, and I haven't had any of the same sort of issues with that little nubbin breaking off or the video issues that I've shown you so far. It really disappoints me that I did such a poor job of maintaining my footage off of my DVR. I shouldn't have went so long. So that's a call out and a warning to myself. I need to do better in the future. Obviously, Newbie Drone does have the capabilities of having a BT20 connector on their quad. So let's see that from here on out. No more PH20, please, Newbie Drone. So you can use A30 or you can use BT20. I mentioned the batteries that I'm using. Here's my pack. I have some of these are marked. You might be able to tell. I marked some of these batteries when I get them in. That way I can kind of tell which ones are fresher. This is my stack of batteries that I was using that I had kind of gone through, and these are my most fresh batteries, but none of them are actually fresh. So WeBleedFPV.com, TinyWhoop.com, Aerial Outlaws for the boom sticks. Pretty much all the same batteries. Shop around wherever you like or wherever is available. Again, the Tattoo 300s, I believe, are the exact same battery. They're just made by Tattoo and would be more broadly available. These are probably pretty centric to being in the US, but these are the batteries that I like to fly. Our most hardcore of racers would probably go for the 270s from Tiny Whoop. I think We Bleed also has those. We Bleed has a 465, which is super long and sticks out the front. I don't mind that too much when you just want flight time and cruising around, but that's for you to decide on if a long battery sticking out the front end, this far, bothers you or not. I've never saw it in camera, but not a big deal to me. Something else that these props, they bend pretty easily. So sometimes in your flights, you'll hear kind of an oddity when it comes to the prop noise. That's usually because you bumped into something and now the pitch on one or more of the props or blades is off a little bit. Usually you can just kind of eyeball it and just kind of finger press it back down into place. That's generally what I did. I had crashed enough to where at one point I thought it was affecting the flight characteristics, so I did swap out all fresh props to kind of start again there, which it is nice. They do give you 2 sets of extra props. Maybe keep this. Can we make a keychain or a lanyard or something? Boy, I don't know. I just worry about losing these sorts of things because, boy, how critical are these things if you lose them and you lose your bind or something, or you need to access Betaflight for a change that isn't available for the OSD. I don't know if that's a real possibility, but I just always worry about losing these sorts of things. And I happen to have another one of those little USB-C adapters sitting here just off camera, and another one from Beta FPV. So it's becoming a habit that we're seeing. So as far as the improvements go, I didn't notice anything with the AT32, the new processor that they used on this board. I don't know why they would have switched that out, but there could be advantages to that. Maybe it's availability or something along those lines. I didn't think it gave it any sort of flight characteristics improvements over the previous iteration. I thought they flew very, very similarly, but you do have an 18 amp a dual channel ESC. You've got SPI Express LRS. You do have a much more powerful VTX, which I was using, but now I can't really anymore on the board. So that's probably where some of our weight offsets with the smaller, what appears to be a smaller camera. As far as lens goes, I think they're about the same, but we have a much smaller PCB on the V2 of the RaceSpec.
As far as price point on this HummingBird RaceSpec V2, we've seen a lot of movement when it comes to prices, generally speaking up. should debut somewhere around $135. You know, that's not definitive at this moment in time, and if you're watching this video later on, it could be quite a bit different. So there'll be a link down in the video description. You know, I thought it flew very well, much like the V1. I've stated that a few times. They've just made some general improvements, made it more friendly for more environments that aren't so strict. So if you are someone who is looking for a really low weight whoop that is fairly US centric as far as purchase goes, it is a good candidate. You know, I do have that question about that VTX. I'm very disappointed that I didn't do a better job. We only had really the 2 outside flights that showed you how it operated normally when it comes to video transmission, but a number of other improvements, specifically with the Express LRS on the board, as well as a much larger ESC at 18 amps, and it's dual channel too. So it should be for those that are, you know, those high level whoopers. It should be a good candidate, one you're probably interested in, but hopefully my counterparts have also flown these things, you know, 40, 50, 60, 70 times and can confirm either my experience with maybe the VTX having some sort of issue, whether it's, you know, crash resistant or just general use. Hopefully they fly theirs a bunch as well, and you can get confirmation that maybe it was just a one-off, a bad luck crash. You know, I do fly pretty aggressively. I fly a lot inside the house. You know, you hit inside the house. Oftentimes I'm hitting something that's immovable inside the house, a wall or something like that, a piece of furniture, something in the kitchen that's all hard materials, and then you bang into the floor, or maybe you bounce around a few different things. So that's one of the things about this hobby, is that you kind of never can get absolute confirmation of what is causing a particular problem unless you're able to resolve it. With an all-in-one board, it's doubly hard because everything's right on the board, and our camera has got really close proximity. So if the canopy went down and hit something, a chip on the board. I should mention that I did flip the camera mounting around to where it, instead of curving under like this, it curved back. I thought that gave me slightly less camera angle, but it really was hard to tell as far as flight speed goes. I did spend some time actually trying to fly where I lowered my focal point in the goggles to a lower portion of the screen in order to be able to slow down a little bit more. But really, when it comes down to the camera angle currently as it is, you're going to have a certain skill set, especially in order to be able to fly it much inside without spending a lot of time crashing in turtle mode and taking off again. But if you are interested, I'll have that link down in the video description to Newbie Drone's website. It is pretty, as I said, US centric. I have seen random parts from Newbie Drone show up on international sites like AliExpress, but I think you'll have to go right to Newbie Drone's website to look at this one further, or to possibly purchase if you're interested. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, or otherwise about the Newbie Drone HummingBird RaceSpec V2, please let me know in the comments section below. I appreciate your time. And thanks for watching.